How's it going, everyone? I know it's been quite a while since I've made a video, and I got something hopefully y'all might enjoy today. Uh, it's a lot longer than usual, but it's got some good stuff in it, and it hopefully will answer most, if not all, y'all's questions, and I hope y'all enjoy. Okay, so this is a rough cut of my interior. I have half of my cage done. I got to do my front half, so it's going to come around and it's going to have the two horizontal door bars, and then from the top of the A-pillar down to the bottom of the A-pillar at like an angle, and it's so one down the windshield and then one at an angle right there, and then two parallel bars across the bottom of the door with the bracing. But the back section is finished. Yes, my welds, actually the welds on this front is the only bad ones. The rest of them are reasonably decent. Not the best, but they're strong enough to hold for sure. And then I had to mount the seat belt a little bit closer. When I had this harness on the passenger side, I set it back maybe an extra 4 or 5 inches, and it was too tight on the chest, so I brought it a lot closer, and I'm gonna have to reinforce the deck right here so that it will hold. And then as far as the main hoop, I actually want to reinforce it up against the inside of my B pillar. Not exactly the best because I didn't scrape the slag. Still some slag left on it, but I tried to get in wherever I could. Mind you, I am still an amateur, so I'm learning about all this. This is how my battery is going to be mounted. I pulled it from back behind the seat, and I'm gonna have my battery right here, and then the whole car's fuse box, like 2 or 3 right next to it right here. So I'll have that wired to the whole car, and then one more up under the dash just for the gauges. But what I'm envisioning is the battery, the fuse boxes make like a plate right here to cover it. And then actually in this section right here is going to be for luggage. So I'll make a little cubby for luggage on both sides, driver, passenger. And then for this half, it'll be the fire extinguisher system. So it'll be a fire extinguisher that does the driver and the engine bay. So I did pick up a clock because I would like to have a clock in my car. And I'm debating on putting it right next to this one, so I'll have 2 gauges right here. And that's why I picked a mismatched set, is because the most important ones are going to stick out against this black paint, and then the ones that are slightly less important, not completely redundant, but less important, they'll blend in, which is why whenever I did my gauge cluster, this background is supposed to be black. And I'll make a back for this, and then I'll connect them together. And then I don't know if I want to keep this as aluminum or make one out of carbon or whatever, but in the end it's going to be painted black, so that way that the black gauges will blend in with it. And I did end up getting a transmission and a differential temp gauge because I want to run coolers on both of them. That's actually, whenever I make my wide body, the scoops on the quarters are going to be widened and made larger, so that way I can put a cooler in each quarter panel, and then it'll duct out through the license plate area in the trunk, so it'll go in, wrap around, and then out the trunk. But it's going to be a triple pillar. I think for the top one I'd like to do a boost gauge. I'm not going to put a supercharger or turbo on it. It's going to be ram charged. So I got a double pumper carburetor. I'd like to do a dual quad setup, and so that way whenever the boost comes in, I'm only expecting like maybe 2 or 3 psi at best, but I'll be able to monitor that. And then I'm hoping to God that whenever I put my gauge cluster, or the custom gauge cluster in, that I could still do the bezel with the 2 gauges on the sides right here, because I actually want to monitor both banks. I'll have a right bank and a left bank monitoring my air fuel ratio. So I'll have a boost gauge and then the air fuel ratios to make sure I'm not running lean. Over here, I would like to pull out I would like to pull out my headlight switch and make this the brake bias to the pedal box. And then I'm debating on putting my windshield wipers right here or on the switch panel. I'm gonna make a new switch panel from scratch, so a fresh one that's not all scratched up and the wrong holes and whatever. This is the fuel gauge reset button. I repurposed that. I put the fire extinguisher and the battery cutoff in the center, and so once I kind of body work the center console in and move the shifter over here, I'll be able to make a rough mold and then make a complete fiberglass one without this metal panel, and this will all be nice and smooth right here. I'm gonna remove the manual e-brake and put like an electric e-brake, so you just hit a switch and it'll lock the back wheels so you can park. But the shifter is actually going to be right here. So if you can imagine, hand from the steering wheel to here, similar to the S550s, but you got a much shorter distance. And that is ideally the goal. Now, as far as my steering wheel, I had to do 2 plates to get like 2 plates and a spacer to get it right where I need it. But this OMP steering wheel that I installed lines up factory. It's like 2 5/8 inch from the hub to the steering wheel is factory, and so I did my best to match that. And I have to finish cutting out the center, install the horn, get a custom sticker made for the horn, and then it's gonna have my start button, turn signals, and then the switch for the nighttime lights for the gauges and everything. So I'll have the switch here to turn that on and off. Now, as far as my upholstery, I actually want to do everything factory upholstery. So on the 99 to 2002, it was 1 solid piece and then 2 stitching lines right here, and then the spoke lips were separate. So it's going to be black leather, and then the spokes in are going to be the original gray suede right here, Alcantara. So this will be Alcantara right here, and then the full body will be black leather with original stitching. And then I'm gonna try to match the original stitch pattern as well. Now, I've had this Saybelt harness for maybe 2 years. I had it about 5-6 months before I crashed this car, so I at least have a harness on. But originally I wanted black, and I was changing it over to the factory gray, but I think the finished product will be black, so I have to order 2 black ones. But this is it's a 4-point mount, and I don't think this car is going to need a 5-point or a 6-point because it's meant to be a daily driver that can go on the track. It's not meant to be a track exclusive. So just something nice that you can drive every day. And I want black. I'm gonna do the interior all original, so it was like a gray headliner with dark gray carpet. So it'd be gray with black carpet, black with silver center seats, gray console. The dash will be the same, just carbon wrapped in Alcantara, but the same colors in the same places. And oh yeah, and I need a pedal box as well, because the seating position is perfect, but for some reason Ford thought it was a great idea to put the shifter way up here, put the pedals way up there. I literally have to hug the steering wheel just to reach the pedals and shift the gears. So that's why I pulled the shifter back. That looks like about a foot. I would think I pulled the shifter back an entire foot. And so I'm gonna get a pedal box similar swing to the original pedals and just mount it forward a bit, and then yeah, that should remedy the entire seating position. And I think that's it for the interior so far. So I'd say, as far as the Sparco seat is concerned, it fits my height and my frame pretty well, but I am a 30-inch waist. I think this goes up to like a 36-inch waist, so I will have to add some padding to it, but the padding won't be permanent as a finished product. This will be just for me. But the shoulders fit great, the headrest fits great, and I think it can suit somebody probably up to about 5'8", 5'9", because that's literally where my head is, right here. So it suits me just fine. Also, what I would like to do for the headliner situation is I want to completely finish the roll cage and have the headliner wrap around it. So I'm gonna figure out a way to redo my original headliner, suede, the Alcantara fabric, but it's gonna wrap around the roll cage and kind of cover it up. And then the FIA, they want a square to remove the driver. So I have the schematics for that, and basically it's like 8 Allen head bolts on the roof. You undo those, you can pull the driver out. I'm guessing that's if your doors get smashed in or whatever. So I'm gonna have if I do a carbon roof and fiberglass headliner, that might work, or I might do double fiberglass, I'm not sure. But I'm not gonna shy away from making fiberglass as opposed to carbon because of the heat insulation. And so I'm gonna have a healthy mix of both. But the headliner situation is gonna wrap over the roll cage and look close to original, but you might still see a bulge. And then for the areas that are close to the head, I might like Velcro some padding over it. Like, that might sound kind of ghetto, and that's just a spitballed idea. But of course, you're gonna need the foam over it to protect yourself. And I might Velcro it. I might put it underneath the headliner. I might cut out the headliner just to put the foam right there. We will see how that turns out. My car really needs a wash. So for the trunk, I put some arrow catch latches on it. I got one mounted in, and then here's the second one. So that's how I'd like to open up my trunk. But I will say that when you mount it, the pin has to be laser straight. Like, not kind of straight, it has to be insanely straight. And that one came out kind of crooked, so I got to cut it off and redo it. And whenever I get a hold of a TIG welder fairly soon, I'm gonna have to play with it and practice until I can figure that out and get it mounted on, and then really get it welded in. I will say the base where you mount it down, be careful with that, because it might be kind of difficult to remove your tail lights. Mine was snagging, so I had to like cut the edges off. And then also the metal that's in the trunk is really thin. It's like 40 thousandths, and my stick welder was just eating through it. The bottom is okay, but up against where the taillights are is really thin. I measured out the forged wheels that I would like, and I'm playing with a bunch of different sizes. For some reason, I think really large diameter rims make a car look attractive, hence why new supercars are coming with 22s, 20s, 24s. So I like 21s on the back and 20s right now. That's kind of what I'm feeling at the moment. But the entire car is going to be 8 inches wider, and then I'm gonna the quarter panels are gonna look original, but they'll stretch out, kind of blend in with the bodywork, and that way they don't look like just some cheap Amazon flares that got stuck on the car. But whenever I widen everything up, the scoop on the quarter is going to be wider, so that I can fit a transmission cooler in one side and a differential cooler on the other side, and just have one in one. And that way they'll go in, they'll flow through, and as they come out, they'll kind of vent out right here to reduce drag. And if you own a New Edge, you know that there's that extra layer on the inside of the trunk, kind of like a pathway. And so that way I can just stick something on and kind of duct it out through the trunk, so it'll blow in and then come out. This is where I decided to dump my exhaust. I'm still figuring out the tip situation. I might settle for Cobra R style tips. I think those would suit really well. Or I might do 4 primaries like a Top Fuel dragster. So depending on which exhaust I pick will determine what set of wheels I pick, because I have like 4 or 5 different options that I'd like, but it comes down to price and kind of what I feel. So if I did something like Centerline Convo ET, I think, where it's just like a very plain rim with the rivets around the edge and a deep dish, and then like some torque thrusts up front, I would definitely do the 4 primary exhaust exit right here. Now if I do Cobra R style, I'll probably get like a 15 spoke wheel in like a gloss silver with Mustang center caps and call it a day. And at some point I'd actually like to put a 15-inch Willwood kit, and I know it would fit with a 20-inch rim up front, but I have to think about 18-inch rims as well for whenever this car runs slicks. So if I got an 18 by 12 or 18 by 12 and a half up front, it's got to fit that brake kit in there. So I want something that stops very aggressively. The tires can hold it, but the rim also has to fit. This is why I'm going to upgrade to a TIG welder, because I found out that these fenders are like 40 thousandths thick. And so I don't know if I want to weld it or if I want to JB weld it with like an epoxy just to get this shape. But I had put a plate to kind of hold it open, and the wheel wells are gonna dump through here, so it'll come out the wheel through here, and then whenever I do the wide body, it'll hold this shape right here. But it's a pretty halfway decent looking fender as a finished product, but obviously those welds are just atrocious. I can agree with anyone that wants to comment about that. But one thing I was thinking of is actually, so doing this, but you cut out the section as a whole piece and then you put it back on instead of kind of banging it out of the way. That kind of messed up this edge a little bit, so maybe that second attempt might come out a little bit better. But these are the way that I would like to have my wheel wells vented out of the car. So when I did the front of my car, I had to make the brackets for the header panel from scratch. I had to make them an inch narrower, I believe, because they were too short, so I had a half inch, and then make it mount. But whenever I made that, I believe that I put the tubular front end on just slightly crooked, so you know, just a little bit, but it's the little things like this that you notice. So I believe I got to bring up those mounts maybe an inch or two to straighten out the headlights. And the driver's side fender mounted on pretty straight, but the passenger side is off, so I have to just slowly straighten everything out. But I mounted I did a V mount on my radiator because it's supposed to go into the Cobra bumper and then come out through the hood. So that's the view from the inside. It should come straight up like this. And I did want to do a ram air intake, but in my position right now, I think I'm comfortable enough to just yank the V6 out and go ahead and throw in a junkyard small block and just start making everything around the junkyard small block. I'm gonna have to trash this radiator because I opened it a little bit too soon and the elements got to it, so it's full of like dirt and leaves and shit, and I don't even want to turn my car on with all that crap in there. But another thing that I have to worry about is my brake lines are hanging way too low. So like my fuel lines, I want to pull these out and completely reroute them. I think instead of wrapping around the front of the car, I want them to split and go behind the wheels and just tuck them in really tight so that no rocks will tear them up. But I'm gonna have to pull out my brake lines and completely remake them from scratch. All right, so this is pretty much how my front end ended up turning out. I want to go with a black engine bay, and I was able to get to everything except for this corner in this area right here, so I still have to finish it. But the main reason that I don't want the V6 is all the extra wiring and shit taking up space, like all this, my entire fuse box, everything up against the firewall and all that. But I made it's a little bit ghetto, but it's halfway decent intake. And then I got my radiator piping, I got my coolant filter because my block is rusty and it kept blowing out radiators, clogging them up and all that. So ideally what I would like to do is just completely clean up the engine bay. I'm gonna remove the brake booster and I'm gonna go with manual brakes. So all that you'll see on the firewall is like 3 master cylinders or 2 master cylinders, because also the clutch. But for sure that's only going to be some tiny Willwood master cylinders, nice, neat and tidy. And I'm going carbureted small block. I still have to get the junkyard motor, the ignition controller, and then make the headers from scratch. And yeah, this is my new coolant tank right here. I got rid of the factory one and got with some. I think this is a little bit smaller than the factory one, but it's nice and tidy. And whenever I get rid of that factory fuse box, I'd like to make the inner fenders from carbon. So whenever I make those from carbon, they'll seal up a whole lot better and just look better. And I'll still have them painted black so that way they match, but I'll be able to remove them and get inside just in case of anything. And for anyone that wants ideas on how to do a, I guess, aftermarket fuel system on the factory fuel rail for the V6, I have the entire thing set up against the firewall, but I actually cut the rubber off of the factory fitting. Use your factory fitting. It's not the best, but it's the only option you got really, unless you feel like making something from scratch. But I ran fresh hose to my fuel pressure regulator, and this is originally what I was going to do, but like I said, I'm in a position now where I can ditch the V6 and swap over to a V8. And I think with this fuel pressure regulator, if I'm not mistaken, you can just change the pressure spring out in it and run carbureted on the same one. But I want to go carbureted because I can get rid of all this wiring eyesore going on. And I mean, like, just look at this. I don't care if it's tucked or not, I hate looking at it. I hate knowing that it's there. And yeah, I also found out that the reason that the car isn't running right now is because the yellow tank part of my power steering is leaking like super bad. Like I poured it in and just dumped it on the ground. So I'm not able to even crank it over. I'm kind of scared to find out. But what I did with the power steering is I actually hooked it up to the transmission cooler lines just to run the power steering. And so that's nice and tidy. And I had fun rebuilding it. It was a bit of a headache, and there's some things that are left unfinished, but I think for my first time ever doing this, I did a fairly good job considering I didn't have any help. And yeah, I mean, a black engine bay with like gold intake, gold valve cover, something like that, I think that would look pretty nice in this car. All black engine. And oh yeah, I did my aero catch on the hood as well. So I'm gonna refinish the underside, finish the vent, and then cast this in carbon, and it should turn out pretty nicely. The fenders are gonna be carbon. I'm gonna body work the doors. The doors are gonna be carbon. I might do the quarters in fiberglass just so I can set the weight distribution, do those in some thick fiberglass. And yeah, I have not gotten this thing done in like almost 4 years. Holy crap. So that's today's short little video. Well, it's actually a lot longer than any of my previous videos, but that's today's video. For the moment right now, I'm saving up for a daily driver. I would like to get another New Edge because of spare parts, and or a Crown Victoria Grand Marquis type car just because it's comfortable. Financially, another New Edge would be the smartest thing that I could do. I would like to have a second car on the side, make it worth about $30,000, and then start trading my way up because I really want like a 67, 68 fastback as a daily, or a Cobra. That's up in the air, but for right now I'm saving up for a daily. I just got a new phone. That's how I got this video out to y'all. And after that, I gotta start getting more tools. I'd like a TIG welder and a generator. I got to get the engine for my car. I got to get the ignition controller for my car. A header mock-up kit, the header builder kit, and then I got to build the rest of my exhaust. On the new engine, I would like to do glass packs, and it might sound stupid, but glass packs with a flat tappet cam, can't beat it. You really can't. But that's what I got for y'all today, and hopefully I'll have a daily the next time I see y'all.